Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're actually going to decode the ancient myth of Gilgamesh and the Huluppu tree. It's this incredible story painstakingly reconstructed from 4,000-year-old clay tablets, and trust me, it's got the whole shebang. Gods, demons, and a legendary hero. Let's dive right into this millennia-old mystery and see what it actually reveals about the very origins of human storytelling.
Now, what's truly staggering here is the immense historical weight we're dealing with. Dating back to roughly 2000 BC, this reconstructed text gives us literally the earliest known version of the classic slaying of the dragon myth. It completely shifts how we understand the origins of epic storytelling. I mean, it shows us that the tropes we love in modern fantasy, they were already ancient when Babylon was young.
In this whole reconstruction, it's a massive academic triumph. Published by the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago and translated by Samuel N. Kramer, scholars had to meticulously piece together fragmented, broken, duplicate tablets just to solve these previously misunderstood Sumerian lines. So this grounds our epic tale today in some very real, deeply rigorous archaeological work. Right at the absolute center of our story is the Huluppu tree. Scholars analyzing the Sumerian context believe this was very likely a willow tree planted on the riverbanks. But here's the really fascinating part. The events that unfold around this specific tree in our myth might actually be the origin of the phrase weeping willow. Keep that little nugget in mind as we go forward.
So, you know how Sumerian myths always start big? They really build up this massive cosmic stage. We kick things off right at the dawn of creation. Heaven and earth separate, mankind is created, and the universe is divided up. The sky god Anu takes heaven, Enlil takes the earth, and Eresh-Kigal is carried off to the netherworld. Finally, the water god Enki sets sail for the underworld, and that is exactly what triggers the events of our myth.
You can truly feel the sheer scale and violence of the Sumerian cosmos in these translations. When the father god Enki sets sail, the sea doesn't just calmly carry him along. Oh no, it rages and foams in his honor. The water at the front of his boat falls like a storm, and at the rear, it strikes down like a lion. It's right in the middle of this primordial, chaotic storm that our story really begins.
During this violent cosmic storm, the Huluppu tree goes on quite a wild journey. Originally planted on the pure banks of the Euphrates River and nourished by its waters, it's suddenly struck by a fierce south wind. The wind tears at its roots and its crown, uprooting it completely. The tree is just tossed into the Euphrates and carried away by the raging waters, until, luckily, it's miraculously rescued by a wandering goddess.
And that wandering goddess is none other than Inanna, who you might know from later times as Ishtar. Walking in fear along the banks during the storm, she spots the floating Huluppu tree. She pulls it from the water and, following the word of the high gods, brings it to her holy garden in the city of Uruk. She plants it there with this very specific, beautiful dream in mind. She wants to craft a holy throne and a holy bed for herself from its wood.
10. That's the exact number of years Inanna waits. For a full decade, the goddess tends to this rescued tree carefully and lovingly with her own hands. She lets it stand at her foot, nurturing it day in and day out, waiting for the trunk to grow thick and mature enough to provide the timber she needs to finally build her dream throne and bed.
But unfortunately, after 10 long years of waiting, her hopes are completely dashed. As the tree grew large, 3 terrifying, totally uninvited guests moved in, taking over the tree's real estate from top to bottom. They infest the base, the trunk, in the midst, and the crown. And because of them, she's entirely unable to cut the bark. So let's look at exactly who these invaders are.
First up, looking at the roots. The translation reads, "At its base, the snake who knows no charm had set up for itself a nest." Notice that phrase, knows no charm. This wasn't just your regular garden snake. This was a formidable, magical serpent that literally could not be swayed or tamed by magic spells. It had completely entrenched itself in the roots, making the tree incredibly dangerous to even approach.
Right above the snake, in the hollow of the trunk, the threat totally compounds. In its midst, Lilith had built for herself a house. Yep, that Lilith, the ancient demoness figure. She literally constructs a dwelling right in the heart of Inanna's precious tree. So now we have an uncharmable magical snake at the roots and a dark demoness living in the trunk.
And finally, sealing the tree off completely, we look at the top. In its crown, the zoo bird had placed his young. The zoo bird is this massive, mythological storm bird from ancient Mesopotamian lore.
With this terrifying creature nesting high up in the branches, Inanna is completely helpless. The tree she spent 10 years lovingly tending has basically become a towering fortress of monsters.
Which brings us to one of the most emotional moments in the translation. Just listen to this. The ever-shouting maid, the rejoicer of all hearts, the pure Inanna, how she weeps. The academic text wonderfully preserves these exact, poetic, ancient phrases. It captures the absolute heartbreak of a mighty goddess who is forced to just stand by, weeping, as her precious tree is overrun. And hey, remember that definition from earlier? Right here we have a weeping goddess and a willow tree. The weeping willow. Makes sense, right?
But hey, epic myths demand epic resolutions. Informed of her deep distress, her brother steps into the narrative at the break of day. And not just any brother. We are talking about the giant, legendary hero Gilgamesh himself. Hearing how his sister's been wronged, he prepares to face down this seemingly insurmountable trio of monsters. And the text goes into some really great detail to show us just how incredibly powerful Gilgamesh is before he even swings a weapon. To really emphasize his superhuman strength, the text gives us some staggering numbers. Gilgamesh fastens armor to his waist weighing a massive 50 minas, an ancient Mesopotamian weight that is an incredibly heavy load for any mortal man. But the text specifically notes that he treats this massive 50 mina armor as if it were a mere 30 shekels. I mean, that's basically light as a feather to him.
And it compounds his staggering strength even further. He doesn't just bring any weapon. He seizes his giant bronze axe, referred to as his axe of the road. The text tells us this weapon weighs an unbelievable 7 talents and 7 minas. Just lifting the thing would be impossible for a normal human, but Gilgamesh easily wields it in his hand as he marches toward the infested Huluppu tree.
Gilgamesh approaches the tree and strikes with absolute fury. With his massive axe, he smites that uncharmable snake right at the base. The shock and awe of this single violent act is so terrifying that the mighty zoo bird immediately grabs its young and flees to the mountains. Meanwhile, the demoness Lilith is so terror-stricken, she tears down her own house and escapes into the desolate desert. Just like that, the monsters are vanquished.
With the tree finally liberated, Gilgamesh and the men of Uruk uproot it and cut it down, and the spoils are divided up perfectly. Inanna's long wait is finally rewarded. She's given the thick trunk of the tree to carve her holy throne and bed. But Gilgamesh takes his share too. From the roots and the crown of the Huluppu tree, he carves 2 highly significant, deeply mysterious magical objects for himself, the puku and the miku.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a truly provocative thought to consider. How does a 4,000-year-old puzzle from 2000 BC pave the way for the thousands of years of epic hero myths that followed? I mean, from heroes donning heavy armor to defeating impossible monsters, how much of our modern storytelling owes its very structural existence to this single, fragmented, ancient Sumerian clay tablet? It just goes to show that while the medium changes, a truly great story, it lives forever.